good afternoon. I want to wish everybody a very happy Father's Day to start with. And I particularly want to say a big thank you to all the fathers out there for the nurturing, the caring, and the protecting that they've given to their families. We're very grateful for all the support that they've given to families. All of us have benefited from it one way or the other. And I want to say thank you to all of them and a very happy Father's Day. Today is the second episode of Adoption Dialog. This is the program that enables us to share experiences of adoptees, adopters, and birth parents, biological parents, in fact. So it gives us a chance to look at the experiences that they've had from different perspectives. And today we have Paul Sinclair, who's an events director. What do you do, Paul?
So yeah, run big, large-scale conferences.
Conferences are right. So that's what he does, and he's also a father. Paul was also adopted, and he's going to tell us a little bit more about his adoption. So, without saying too much, Paul, perhaps you can start sharing with us your experience as an adoptive child, when you grew up.
Yeah, sure. So, I was adopted. I was born in 1977. So 45 years. My father is from just outside Kumasi, and he came to study with his brother in Nottingham, and they stayed for.
So this is you're talking about your biological father.
Biological father, yeah.
Father,
yeah.
okay.
I try and give you a flavour of why I'm here in the first place.
That's it, exactly. So it's good to clarify because there are a few fathers out there.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And then my mother was from Nottingham also. And I was born in after 5 days in 1977. And I'll qualify how I know this, but in 1977, for a young white lady to have a black child in Nottingham or in the north, and I'm not sure it was the easiest thing. So after I was born, and then she put me up for adoption. I was adopted after 5 days, and then adopted. And lived in Nottingham for a short period of time, and then moved to Italy for 5 years, and then came back to the UK when I think I was around 6, 7, and then have resided here ever since. So
what was the Italian connection? Was your birth mother Italian?
No, my adopted father was English, but worked for the armed forces, and then went to live in Italy for, I think it was about 4 or 5 years. Then came back and did primary school here, and then stayed in the southeast.
Did you learn the language?
No, we lived on.
You're too young.
We lived on an American air base.
Oh, I see what you mean.
So I moved to America, not Italy.
Indeed. Yes, it felt like an American part of the world in
Exactly.
Italy. Yes, that's interesting. So, Paul, at what point then did you discover that you were adopted?
So it's an unusual one, right? So I think what I've learned, even as a father, is children are very innocent, and just take the beauty of being a child is the beauty of innocence, that you don't prejudge, or you don't think too much other than just get up and have fun. And it was when I was around. So my adopted parents are both white, and I've got my brother and sister from my adopted family, obviously white as well. So it wasn't until we were on a climbing frame when I was about 8 years old that someone said to me, "You keep calling them your brother and sister. Why are you calling them brother and sister?" And I said, "They're my brother and sister." And they said, "Well, why are you a different color?" No.
Oh, you mean you didn't realize it at the time? How old would you have been?
No, I think you realize from appearance, but I don't think you question it, because you're just getting on playing football, doing whatever you're doing with everybody. So maybe, I don't know, maybe 6, 7 would have been when I came back to the UK from Italy.
Oh, right. So this happened here in England. This is when the question came up. And how did that make you feel in that moment?
No, I think it's a game changer, right? Then all of a sudden you start thinking, it's not until someone tells you something about yourself, and especially a child, whatever it is, not even talking about this, anything at all, that someone really tells you and provokes that chain of thought in your mind, that you start going, okay, let me just, I haven't got an answer for you. let me just think that through a little bit more. And then, and then it's almost like the obvious. It's like, oh yeah, I wonder, why didn't I think that?
Yeah.
Why? And it almost takes away your innocence. It's a bit like asking a child when they're 18, are you sure you didn't know about Father Christmas? It's like, I
Right.
never thought about it. It was just a part of everything, you know? And then someone actually says, you really think that big guy can get down the chimney? And you're like, why didn't I think of this? So I think what is that, the reason I say that is the second someone tells you something, I guess it takes your innocence away and you grow up 1,000 years in a split second.
Did it occur to you to ask your parents about it?
No, never.
Why would that be? Why would you not do that?
Um,
Even at that young child, as a young child, what would have been going through your mind for you not to think naturally to ask them?
because I don't think it's, I don't know, maybe you're asking me questions now that, again, you're provoking thoughts. Maybe
Yeah.
your emotional IQ is high and you just don't want to offend anybody, or, and I maintain the same position today. I don't like talking about anything. It's not
Right.
that I won't sweep it under the carpet, but you'll rationalize it and figure it out for yourself. I don't want anybody to talk to me about a problem. I'll work out the problem and I'll find the solution and then I'll deal with it.
Okay, so that's wonderful. That's an interesting way of dealing with it. So it tells you now, it's telling me that everybody has got your own individual way of digesting that information when they hear it.
Mm.
So would you have preferred for you to have been told by your parents from the outset, or were you, or you
Um, no, not
not
really.
necessarily?
I
Okay,
think then, I think you, it depends on the question you're asking me. Do I think people should, or
yeah,
would I want the two different things? I
I
can't
think
speak on behalf of I can only speak on behalf of myself, right? So from my perspective, no one needs to tell me anything. I'll always overcome my own challenges. And maybe that mindset is a reflection of all of the different things I've gone through in life. But do I think people should be told? We touched on this just in casual conversation before we started. I don't think it's up for the parents or the child. I think it's I don't believe the service is very good, and I think there should be more support in how you go along a journey. It's a long journey, so it's whoever tells anybody, or I don't know what's right and wrong. It's not for me to say, but I think there should be more support in how you deal with that information. Notwithstanding, it's only a matter of time before I know they were different color to me. But I think if it's black children being adopted by a black family, Indian by Indian, white by white, the shock of not knowing will be far greater.
I quite agree because I think what the things have moved on quite a bit, thankfully, from
Mm.
1977, and well, it would have been, I think yours would have been 1980, 82, isn't it, when you were adopted eventually?
Oh no,
Because
5 days. So mine was
oh,
7.
5 days. It was 77. Yes,
7, yeah, yeah,
yeah.
yeah.
Right now it is actually encouraged that people are told straight away. So when I got my children at 2 years old, straight away we had what they call a life story book, and we took them through the life story book, which had pictures of their birth mother and the siblings and everything, and so there and then we told them that they are adopted. We've adopted them, and I remember when my children got older, they were saying that they thought that we were telling them that they were doctors. It was only when they got older that see they kind of grow with the meaning. It evolves. The meaning of the
Yeah,
word
yeah.
adoption evolves as they get older. So when they got older, they realized that they knew,
It
but
wasn't doctor.
because yeah, so they grew up knowing it. So it didn't mean anything. It didn't make a difference to them. But I do remember that one of the things that I was very careful about was telling people about them being adopted. But I realized that they were telling everybody that they were adopted, you
Yeah,
know.
yeah,
So I thought, well, that's fine.
yeah.
And I think the other thing as well, because they're the same complexion as me, people didn't believe. And when they told people, they were fascinated because people didn't believe it, and they loved the fact that people, oh, for real? No, that can't be true. Sally, is it
Exactly.
true? So Sally, is it true? I said, yes, they are. And oh, okay. And I think in their minds, it was another way of validating themselves.
Mm,
They're getting
mm.
that reassurance. Yeah. But the thing is, did you ever go through a period where you've kind of felt a need to have a sense of belonging? You know,
No, I mean, um,
was that an issue for you?
yeah, it. I think anybody is a sense of as you just used it, like validation and belonging. It doesn't matter what you're talking about. You need to be a part of something that you can identify with. And so I think from an early age, I mean, I remember going to family weddings and making a point of not being in the picture because you're the odd one.
Stood out. Yeah.
You're the odd one. Yeah. It's such an anomaly. It doesn't, the piece of the jigsaw doesn't fit.
Yeah.
So you'd want to be out of the photos. So I think from there on in, I think if you're an, you know, as an adult, if you got to the point of adopting, you'd like to think that you've got a big heart. You want to do something for someone, and you wouldn't necessarily see that child as anything other than your own. And so maybe because you believe that so strongly, you don't feel the necessity to engage with the child because you're a part of the family. You're one of us, but you haven't identified the fact is, do you feel one of us?
Well, this is the thing. That's what I was saying about the sense of belonging, because I think that I was because I actually ended up working in the world of adoption. I actually got to know a lot about it, which I would never otherwise have known, and started trying to practice some of them in my own life. I mean, one of the things, but exactly what you're saying, is conscious of the fact that these children are not my birth children. They feel like my birth children. They really do feel. I mean, I
You're
don't.
protecting them. Yeah.
Yeah, but not only that, I forget that I didn't give birth to them, and they forget that I didn't give birth to them as well, which is interesting. But having said that, I also recognize the importance of having a birth family. You know, whatever I do, I didn't give birth to them, and I cannot deny that fact. And I don't think it's my place to deny them the chance of meeting that birth mother or birth father. So I've kind of made them aware of the fact that if ever they needed to go in search of their birth parents, I'll be here to support them, you know. But then you see, I guess I'm a little bit of an advantage because I had been in the adoption world and knew the advantages of that, you know, rather than trying to block them from doing it. I knew that it would actually be very helpful to them.
Yeah.
I do remember an experience we had once when we went on the beach, and this is in Ghana, coming back, and I had five nieces in the back of the car, and they're all wearing their bikinis, and one of them spotted a little mole on the left hand side of their faces. So one spotted it and started checking on the other child. The other child had it, and another child had it, another child had it. And I thought, oh no, I hope they do not look at my daughter, because she's not, like, obviously, she's not going to have it. You know, she's not a bloodline.
Yeah.
And you'll never believe that when they looked at Arata's neck, she had it too.
Oh, wow. Wow.
It was the most, and you know, you can't imagine the elation. It
Yeah.
was beyond belief.
Like,
And I know that, yeah, and I know that nobody would understand why she was so elated, you
yeah.
know, because it meant more to her.
Validation. I'm a part of it.
Exactly. There was that. And then also, but what made it even validated her more was there was one of the other nieces who didn't have it.
Oh, okay.
Can you imagine? So it really made her feel like, oh, well, then I am really
I'm one up.
integral. Absolutely, you
I've
know.
been stamped.
Yeah, and it's little things. And I remember how people would come to the house, you'd be telling them, well, you know, I also had the mole, you know. And of course, it meant nothing to any of those people.
Yeah,
but
yeah, but it's special.
I knew what it was. I knew what it was all about, you know.
Yeah,
That's
yeah.
needing to. But then there's also the other thing, which I'll come back to another. But so did you actually then, having all those feelings, did that motivate you at some point then to search for your birth family?
Yeah, so I think there's definitely. So after I was adopted, then my adopted mum then left, and we ended up living with my adopted dad.
Oh, you mean the marriage ended?
Their marriage ended.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. So then I would only see her like once every summer holiday, something around that. And then my father remarried, or my adopted dad remarried. So and then they stayed together. Then I went to live back with my adopted mum, who got remarried. But then,
so was it all of you? All the children went with her?
No,
you
split.
Only you stayed with your dad, and the other siblings.
Everybody stayed with dad, but I then went to live with my adopted mom. But then she was remarried, and then she was the guy was not a good guy. And so then she got divorced. So I think by the time you get to 16, like the structure of family is an odd concept.
Yeah.
You've seen not fail in the sense that like you have a negative perception, but maybe you just have a different view of how this whole human generated thing of marriage and family and blah blah blah. So then when I was 16, I think after that you spend a lot of time on your own.
Right. Okay.
So by the time you get to 16, you just think, do you know what? I need to. There's bigger forces out there. I need to understand. Like none of this is really worked out. You look different. You think different. You act different. It's not so much you reject your adopted family, because we're still close now, but you definitely feel like the plus one. Do you see what I mean? And if you feel like the plus one, and like let's say, for example, you meet a girl and there's no one in the house, and then she comes into the house, you sit down, you put the TV on, she's looking around like, what are these pictures?
Oh, right.
Who are these pictures? Why almost like, is this your house?
Oh, right.
You
so
see?
you kind of feel like an imposter.
No, she's looking at
but
the
she's
pictures.
seeing you, so you're thinking, oh gosh, what is she thinking?
So you let's say you've been out for food, and you're saying, oh, so tell me about your family. Yeah, blah blah, mum, dad, brother, sister. Yeah, and you're like, yeah, cool. So then another time she'll come around, stop by the house and come in and sit down. No one's in, so there's no one to greet her at the door. But no one's told her, and she's thinking, she's not even thinking, is this guy Ghanaian, Nigerian, Caribbean, anything? It's just the people in this house must look like him.
Yeah.
And then they look up and they're like, who are the two people in the picture with you there? Why are you sitting with these people? And comments like that, why are you sitting with these people?
Wow.
So then you start thinking, it's not even me that thinks like this. Who am I kidding? The rest of the world is also asking the same question. So how can the piece of the jigsaw fit? And so then from there you start thinking, in which case you need to find the place where you fit, if that makes sense.
It does make sense, because I interviewed a Chinese lady a long time ago, also an Indian young lady as well. And it's interesting that they shared exactly the same sentiments that you're sharing as well, because they also were transracially adopted. They had white parents. And I remember both of them said they actually didn't realize, like you, that they were different. And I think the Chinese girl said she found it very cruel. People used to tell her how much she looked like her mother. So when she realized that she was actually adopted, and it suddenly dawned on her that she didn't look like her mother, she felt it was a very cruel thing to do for somebody to, knowing the situation, to tell her things like that. If it's meant to make her feel good, she didn't think it did that at all. It did the opposite. This is why we're doing this program, because it's a learning curve for all of us. We're all learning something from this. Because if you didn't tell us the story, nobody would know. Nobody would be able to understand or empathize with the challenges that you're going through if you don't express it to us, because we're not walking in your shoes, are we?
No, it's
Yeah.
very true. Very true.
Yeah. So then, to tell us about the journey. So you decided then, let me look for where the people where you think you might fit. And that was a gamble, because that was also a gamble. You were aware that it was a gamble.
Yeah, no, it's a gamble. But as well, I was doing everything on my own, because I was very aware that you couldn't tell your adopted parents. It's a hard thing to explain, but I guess you're acutely aware of what they've given up for you, but you're also acutely aware that they're not your biological parents. And so those two things in themselves don't go together. Like they would never treat you any different to their biological children. So it's almost like, it's almost like you're being unfaithful. Like you're going out of your way, and it's almost like saying, I can imagine now as a parent, it's saying you couldn't fill the shoes. You see, so I did everything on my own. And at first I used there was an old website called Friends Reunited. So I knew when you're adopted, literally, I still got it upstairs, an A4 sheet with 1 or 2 things about you. That's it. So it's like grandpa worked on the rail, father came from Ghana, blah blah blah. Small information.
And so who would have had that information? What is the local authority who would have had that information to
The
pass on to them?
the the adopted parents then got given the piece of paper, and that's it.
Okay.
A piece of paper and you're done.
So that's a paper your birth mother would have, biological mother would have had, and your biological father as well, presumably.
No, the biological mother would have dictated,
Sure.
and someone would have typed, and then
Okay.
they put it in an envelope, and you're off. You're gone.
I see.
So then it's up to your adopted parents to give you that piece of paper.
Right. Okay. Yes, I've got it. So your adopted parents give it to you, or you found it through the friends?
Well, I can't remember how I found it.
Okay.
I probably. I can't remember. But yeah, and then just started going through different things. Eventually, went up to the National Archives when it was at Somerset House.
Yes.
Went through my birth name. I had my birth certificate. So I went through everything in 1977 to onwards with the name of my birth name on it, through marriages, not through birth, to see if she got married. So then once you found out that she'd got married because you had her first name, then you found out her maiden name.
So you searched for your mother, your birth mother. That's the first search, yes.
Yeah, Sally, you know how hard it would be to get anything from Ghana with anything accurate for birth, deaths, and marriages. So yeah, I went through my mother first, and then found her and her maiden name. So she had also been divorced, and her maiden name was Williams. So when I found out her name, then I could go through. Do you remember the old phone books?
Oh yes, the yellow. Yes.
Yeah.
Those ones,
called one by one.
Oh, and with a name like that, you're talking about thousands, because that's one of the names that is a very common name here in England. Yes.
But a lot of it was
you
guessing.
Narrowed it down to the area.
Yeah, you knew where on the marriage certificate, you know where they got married. So you know which city, so you know which city and which area. So you can start there. If someone says, "Oh, I know them," you can refer them and say, "Oh no, I'm just doing it." I made up like we're doing a reunion or something. I can't remember what I said now. Eventually found her, and then through finding her, you can find out a bit more about your dad. But then your dad is finding dad in Ghana from UK in 1995, whatever it was, is like, it's crazy. So that would be, we did the same, but then I was looking, so my father's name is a Champon, but it's spelt with a K, not a CH. So to find then all the Champons in Nottingham and Derby and Leeds, it's an unusual spelling anyway. So then to find them in the UK, and I found my cousin first. My cousin then put me in touch with his dad. His dad put me in touch with my uncle. My uncle put me in touch with my dad.
She went through the uncle. Now, when you contacted the uncle, how would the uncle have received this information? Because that's coming out of the blue, isn't it?
So I said, I knew that they had studied at a place called Balderton Hospital, which is in a place called Newark in Nottingham. So I went through on this Friends Reunited and did class of 77. And then called one by one all of the people that were in that class, saying, "Now there's a reunion. I'm sending out invites. Have you got the name for?" With the list on the website, you could say, "Have you got the name for Mr. Jones? No. Have you got the name for this one?" And you just read out a few. "Have you got the number for Mr. Champon?" They'd be like, "Oh yeah. I remember the Champon brothers. Yeah, I've only got one though. It's one brother. He lives in Bradford now, but we stayed in touch a little." On and off. So then they gave me my uncle Kofi's number. So I called him and I said, "I've just spoken to Dave such and such. He's agreed to come to the reunion. Do you want to come to the reunion?" But they called him my uncle, they called him Pocket Lawyer. Nothing got through him. And he was like, reunion, huh? Doesn't sound right. he was asking questions backwards and forwards, and it got too much. I couldn't keep up with his questions. He was a very smart, shrewd man. Nothing got past him. And in the end, I just said, look, I'm lying. I'm sorry, I shouldn't have lied. Like, you're my uncle. And the guy was like, okay.
Is that all he said? That's all he said?
Yeah, you know, that sort of,
cow.
That old Ghanaian, yeah, like he's absorbing the information now. So we went through a few things. He said, fine, call me back in such and such a time, 1 week or so. I have to talk to Kwame, my dad. So they obviously went backwards and forwards, and he said, you have to come up and see me in Bradford. And so we went.
But Paul, it was a good thing that at least he was still in England, wasn't it? I mean, it would have been quite difficult if he had gone back to Ghana at that point.
Yeah, really.
So you obviously hastily went off to Bradford.
Straight up to Bradford, yeah. I met him for a few hours, and then came back to London, stayed in touch. And then after a while, he just said, he said to my dad, this guy's not lying. Everything about him is you. Like, you have to, you're cooked. You're
amazing,
done.
Amazing. Yeah. But just give us a picture of a further meeting, the day that you actually met him. What was it like?
My uncle, or
your uncle. When you met him, where did you meet him? At the train station?
No, I just drove straight to his house. Found his house. Yeah, we just sat down, chatted for 3 hours. But then, you know, it's quite bizarre. You know, like, northern lifestyle and southern lifestyle is completely different. Let alone you throw in then English
Ghanaian,
an older Ghanaian guy with different values and a different outlook on life, different thoughts about family, everything. But I think, in fairness, this guy, you know, he sadly passed away recently. Well, not recently, about 2 years ago. But he was so straight talking. Everybody loved him, but he also, the way he just delivered things without any thought was, you know, it could be quite like take your breath away.
Yeah, but I'm sorry that he passed away, but he was obviously a very important person to you.
Yeah, very, very, and you know, very defended me, like, you know, like, would always make sure that people knew that I was a part of the family. Wow. To the point when you meet your cousin, you know, I meet cousins now and stay in touch with, they were like, oh, I didn't even know that you were adopted. I just thought we didn't know about you.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. So,
wow. It's amazing.
And then, yeah, he then hooked me up with Dad, and then went to Ghana like a year later.
You went with him to Ghana?
No, I went on my own.
Oh, you did?
Yeah.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Wow. I see. So what was that like, meeting your dad? I mean, obviously by this stage he knew about you. You presumably had the chance to speak to him. So
yeah. And then, then I had a sister. My sister was at Kumasi Tech. So the first time I went, stayed for a while in Accra, then flew to Kumasi, and then came home. But even that, you know, it's very, very odd. Like, his wife was very, very emotional about the whole thing. And she said in 1970, no, she said 19 something it was anyway, that she had a miscarriage, and her and my sister would always talk about, like, or my sister would always say that I'm sure I've got a brother somewhere.
Oh.
And so there was a very, like, this strange sort of spooky backstory to the whole thing, where Mum was very accepting. So yeah, no, they were very welcoming, and then took me to then I flew from Accra to Kumasi, met my sister, we hung out for a bit, came back, and then came back to the UK. But even that is, like, odd, right? You think you don't fit in the UK. Although I was, you know, very well, I've traveled a lot. Then landing in Ghana, you realize also, this is the first time you're in Ghana. This is a similar situation to UK.
What was similar?
No, in the sense, I think if you talk, like, I've got a lot of friends who are mixed race, and it's always like you're not Ghanaian enough for Ghana, you're not English enough for England, and you're stuck somewhere
Is
over
it in the
Algeria
middle?
on an airplane.
Yeah,
Yeah,
that's right.
you see what I
Yeah.
mean? So it's like the difficult part is although the experience was overwhelming, an amazing experience, and luckily very accepted. It could go one or
Oh,
two ways, right?
you were
Very,
accepted. That's the important thing. Did they
yeah.
have a ceremony to accept you? Was there a ceremony to accept you?
There was more, not a ceremony, but in terms of like family coming together. So aunties, uncles, everybody. Um, and even now, if I go to Ghana, Ma would always call me Yao. She wouldn't call me Paul, and so it's
So they gave you the Ghanaian name straight away when you got there.
Yao. Yeah.
So the name you would have been given at birth by your
Uh-huh.
dad was given
Yeah.
to you at that age. So how
Yeah.
old would you have been were you 16 at this time or
No, so I knew when I met my biological mum, we stayed in touch, and we sort of kind of understood each other, but
Mhm.
it wasn't an immediate like warmth.
Mhm.
Like it's a mutual respect.
Yeah.
And for me, it was always like you had two choices: abortion or adoption. And I wouldn't be sitting here today if she wasn't brave. So there's a respect for her to go through something that would have been a horrific experience for her on so many levels, from
Mhm.
having a child at a very young age to the whole race issue in England in the 70s. Like, she was brave to do it. So
Mhm.
I would never blame her for anything. It's more gratitude that she didn't take option 2, which would have been
Yeah.
a
Yeah.
disaster, obviously,
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
But there's never, I think maybe even from her situation, I sense, I don't know, that it would be like a sense of regret and a sense of guilt and so many emotions from her side, probably stronger than my side. And so it's very hard to get to know.
Well, this is it. I mean, I think that for her, I think that that's something that biological mothers go through, because obviously, if they had the choice and if things were equal, they would most definitely would haven't have made that decision. So I
Yeah,
think it lives with them all the time, and they're thinking, "Ooh, would I have done it differently, and so on and so forth." But like you said, we're where we are, and
we
it's
are
by
where
how
we
you
are.
manage the situation that we're in at this
Hmm.
point.
Yeah,
Yeah. But the great thing is she at least gave you information about your father,
yeah,
which led to finding him, which is actually
exactly.
very, very helpful. You
Yeah,
know.
yeah, yeah. So I think even now, my biological mother's met the kids. We stay in touch. After, I don't even know how long it was because it was only recently. 4 years ago, I met my sister.
It's your adopted sister.
No, so I've got a biological brother and sister who live in north of England
On your mother's side. So these
on my
are
mother's side.
half
Yeah,
maternal siblings.
uh-huh. That's it.
Got it. Yes,
Yeah,
yes, yes. Oh, really?
yeah, yeah.
Oh,
So
okay.
I met my sister only for the first time, maybe I say 3 years. Time flies, doesn't it?
Mhm,
I'm thinking
mhm,
COVID's been
mhm.
going for 2, so maybe longer, maybe 4 years.
So they were much younger than you are, of course.
Yeah,
Yeah.
she must be maybe 30,
Okay.
35, somewhere around there. Because my mother was very young when she had me. So I
Yeah.
think, yeah, she'd be around 30, somewhere around there anyway.
Yeah. Yeah.
So, but then a brother that I don't know,
Okay. Who you are yet to
haven't,
meet.
who yet to meet, and then a
Yes.
sister on my father's side in Ghana.
Mm.
But
So, Paul, that's an incredible journey searching for your birth family and its persistence there, the fact that you never gave up, the
mhm,
tenacity to find it. Is it worth the search? I think that's the important thing. There was a hole that you needed to fill in, you presumably. Am I right in saying that?
yeah, like a
Yeah,
thousand
something
percent.
like that. Do
Yeah,
you think it do it?
you have to do it.
Did it fill the hole after you've done this journey, the search?
If I don't know, yeah, I get what you're trying to say. I don't know if it's a hole, but it's a route. A,
A route. Ah, that's
yeah,
a
like
good
yeah.
word.
So
A route.
a place of beginning. So I think
That's
I
it.
think if it ironically if it'd been the other way around, it'd be more painful. If it had been my dad was not so welcoming, and my father and I are now close, and my mum was accepting. If it was the other way around, because I think from a mixed race perspective, I'd already had the English side, and it was the other side that you need to put the two pieces together, right?
Yeah. And I think also it's the other side that defines you,
Yeah, yeah,
because the
yeah,
black
exactly.
side that defines you, really. So in a
Yeah,
way, you want to know, who are these people that have made me stand out, distinguished
as I,
against,
yeah,
as you are,
yeah.
think from everybody else around you. Yes, I understand exactly that.
Mhm.
Yeah. And so you feel that the search, after having met your birth father's family, that did it for you. So I mean, did you find that you slotted into that world quite well, albeit the
Yeah,
fact that you are English and so on? Have you slotted in? And that,
yeah, definitely,
oh,
definitely.
okay.
And then,
Okay.
I think I would say home from home
Oh,
when you're with family. I guess the difficult thing is not growing up in Ghana. So my sister wasn't born here; she was born in Ghana. The difficult thing is when you're in Ghana and people are speaking Chi or Fanti or anything, you realize but it's the same in any language. When someone speaks their language and you don't know it, whether you're in China or anywhere, it becomes very evident you're not from that area.
yeah.
So that's the only side. But other than that, when everybody's together, it's very normal. Cousins, you see cousins and go to weddings, and it's nice. It's
And,
very,
and and they welcome you and they embrace you,
very,
and it just
yeah,
feels like it's always been
normal.
like that. Yeah,
Yeah,
normal. That's
yeah.
lovely to hear. Married now.
Hmm.
Your father of how many?
Three,
Really? How old are they?
13, 10, and 20 months today.
Oh, fantastic!
Yeah,
A baby.
young,
Oh,
young.
amazing. And I mean, do they know that you are adopted, and what do they make of
Oh
it?
yeah, 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 yeah.
Now, that's
Because
interesting. Did you tell them?
because don't forget from the story, I haven't really seen my biological mother much. My father lives in Ghana, so the grandparents don't know from my side, the adopted grandparents here, if that makes sense.
Oh, so you mean you're saying that in actual fact, they know your birth family, they know your birth family, which
They
is
know
your
everybody.
biological family. They know the entire biological family, but they don't know the adoptive family here yet.
No, no, sorry. Because my father's in Ghana,
Yes.
and I'd never really came close to my biological mother. The people they regard as grandparents, immediate,
Yes.
like, see, not the people that they see most that fit the
Yes.
grandparent name are my adopted mum and dad. So
Right.
even for
Yes.
them, like, I think there's two
Now I
things.
got it.
Yeah, I think there's two things, right? One, if you live in the diaspora,
Mhm.
you feel a stronger pull to wherever it is that you call home or identify as home. If you're adopted, the pull is 10 times stronger. So I've spent a lot of time as they grow up making sure that they understand everything from both sides.
Right. And do they
So
understand it? Do they understand it? Even though it's quite
yeah,
complex, the
they
complexity of
understand
it.
it. Yeah, it's funny watching my son grow up as well. Like because you'd say probably more associated with what I do for my job because I'm always in Africa and through seeing friends and things like this. I think you see my son growing up
Yeah.
and you see where he identifies,
Mm,
and so they see everything. I'm sure.
right. So where does he identify your son?
I would say you would identify more just by watching his behavior in different social settings. I would say he identifies more on for his black side.
Your wife is presumably is your wife. Is she
His
black?
Ghanaian.
Oh, she's Ghanaian. Oh, I see.
Yeah,
So that's
yeah.
obviously, so that may be the reason why then, isn't
Yeah,
it?
yeah.
Yes,
I don't
exactly.
know. I've never asked him. It's not
Yes,
as long it's the same thing, isn't it? As we were saying
it
earlier
is.
on. As long as your kids are happy, you don't ask too many questions.
Yeah, yeah. But I think it's important that you explain to them your journey,
Mm.
and they have an understanding of it, and also the fact that they have a relationship with your adoptive grandparents.
Yeah, yeah.
And
And
is
they
it
know
a? Mhm.
all their cousins, both sides. I don't think they would even see one in a different. They wouldn't be able to pick out one from another. It's all one big melting pot.
But Paul, one thing that has come out of this, which I think is really quite beautiful, is the fact that it has extended your family
Mm.
in so many different dimensions.
Mm, mm, mm.
And if one looks at it in a very optimistic and positive way, it's actually very enriching
Mm.
because you're getting your particularly your children are getting relationships
Exposure. Yeah.
which are broad and
Mm.
expansive, and they are all family. So you've got the link in Africa, you've got the link here in
Yeah.
England, and then there's some tenuous link to Italy as well, which is really fantastic because when you look at the way the world is right now, where everything's become quite small, you're seeing that it is the way things are now, isn't it? Where people need to be opening up more and embracing the fact that we're living in a world where it's becoming a lot smaller. So they've actually
Mm.
got that whole thing about the world, the microcosm of the world in their own family.
In their own house. Yeah,
Yeah, in
no,
their own house.
it's a lot. It's a lot. But I think, as you say, um life's got a way of working itself out.
Yes, it
You know,
does.
when you're in the pit of despair and you keep asking yourself, why me, or why did this happen to me? It's amazing how life's got a tendency to show its cards later on, and you realize, actually, as you say, it makes you stronger and richer as long as you can keep your focus.
I think also, Paul, with all credit to you, is that I think you grabbed hold of a situation that was very difficult. And because you were optimistic about it and you were very positive in your approach, you were able to find solutions and it worked out for you
Mm.
because it could have gone either way.
Anyway,
It
yeah,
could have
yeah,
gone
yeah.
anyway, because you do have those who are in despair because they were not told the information
Mm.
and they may not have the strength of character. It could also be that the family that you had actually boosted your confidence on so many levels, which is
Mm.
what gave you the strength to be able
Mm.
to forge ahead with confidence to do all that you're able to accomplish. How was your father? I mean, we are today's Father's Day. Was your father to you? Looking back, how has he influenced your role as a father right now?
My adopted father.
Your adopted father, yeah, because he's the one you grew up with, yeah.
Yeah, yeah. He yeah, he's quite an extraordinary character,
Hmm.
in the sense that, you know, um, he was left with three children and raised us, which is an unusual scenario in any period, let alone if if you're in the armed forces and back in the day when a man in the army or navy or air force, there was the men and the women, and there was a very definite dynamic which probably wouldn't be accepted today.
Mhm.
So then to be left in that situation, I guess I've never asked him, so I'm guessing again, would not be humiliating, but definitely from an ego perspective, quite shattering. So to be able to find the courage to stand up and keep pushing, irrespective of how you feel,
Yeah.
from a man's point of view, is no, it's quite exceptional, I guess.
It is exceptional. It's exceptional, and it's all credit to him. That is amazing. And the fact that he had you as well. So it wasn't just his biological children, he also had you who was there
Yeah,
with him, and he embraced all of you and did this on his own. That
yeah,
is really admirable.
yeah, yeah.
Credit to him. Happy Father's Day to him. He really
Happy
has earned
Father's Day.
it. Yeah.
Yeah,
And
no, exactly.
so how do you think that the strength of character influenced you now as a father to your children? Do you think
You
it's
know,
rubbed off on you in any way?
100%.
His tenacity, his strength for
Yeah,
character.
yeah. I think, like even my children or my situation as a father has been really challenging for 10 years. That's a whole different story. Yeah, as you say, you you learn, um like the true word of responsibility, like where you have to, yeah, you have to step up, and by hook or by crook you're going to defend what you feel. And I think as an adopted child as well, when you have children, you've got a strong, I don't know, anybody who's not an adopted child would say you're talking rubbish, but I'm sure you must feel a deeper sense of, I'm going to do everything for my biological child because I know what it's like to be adopted. So
I think so.
you're willing to run through a couple more brick walls than a regular parent because you want to relinquish that child who is your only true blood connection, unless you found your biological parents. That is the closest thing you're ever going to get to a blood family.
Absolutely.
You see?
It's yeah, that's something that people don't recognize until
Mm.
it's said in the way that you said, because in a way, once you have those children, you're sure they're yours these are the real biological links that you have in this world that you can actually put your hands on and say, yes, I'm responsible for this one.
Yeah,
And
yeah,
yes,
yeah,
I
yeah.
think it deepens your responsibility, and it's great. And so it really made you think it's made you a better father than you would have been
Yeah,
otherwise,
yeah.
possibly. Yeah.
If you look
Hands
at
on.
hands on. If you look at life, whenever there's a challenge, you've got two choices. You can fight or flight. You can either keep going and trust in yourself, give 100%. It's probably made me over competitive. You see people now, and they crumble at anything, and you think what we're going through on a day-to-day basis with work and this and that is of no consequence, or is not even close to how you feel if you feel isolated as an adopted child, or if you are different. That pit is so deep that if you can climb out of that, then the day-to-day is different. The day-to-day challenges are a pest rather than something emotional that you really have to figure out.
Wow.
So I think it teaches you a lot.
When you climb out of that pit, and that's what you did. You climbed out of it. It's an extraordinary journey, but you've arrived at a place where you're just where you want to be. This is where
Yeah,
you're
this is
happy
it.
being. This is
Yeah,
it.
yeah, 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 100%.
Fantastic.
Where
Fantastic.
you've got your own family. You've got kids. You've got a sense of responsibility. You're at peace. You're calm. The pieces of the jigsaw fall in, and so I guess you just regular issues about petrol prices and everything else to worry about. The rest of it's gone.
And they pale into insignificance considering
Exactly.
everything that you've been through. That is amazing. Paul, it's been a fantastic experience talking to you. Thank you for sharing your life experiences with us and being so honest and open.
Oh, bless you.
Because
No problem.
there's so much that we can learn from what you've been through. Others can learn from it. I, as an adopted parent, have learned a lot from you. And I'm hoping that other people who've listened to this program will also get the same understanding and enlightenment as you have expressed to us today. Thank you, Paul, for your time.
God bless you.
We
Thank
took
you for
time
yours.
away from your children on Father's Day. I know they're waiting to go and spend a lovely afternoon with you. So what are you going to do today with them?
So we were going to go and do some kayaking on the river. We bought a kayak, so we'll go and try and do some outdoor activity, maybe have a picnic and relax. So,
I do love that. But look, enjoy yourselves. Say thank you to the young people for us, your children, for lending you to us this afternoon. Well, thank you for your time. Really appreciate it. Thank you. Okay, all the best. Thank you, everybody, for coming. We really enjoyed, and it's wonderful to have seen you. Have a wonderful Father's Day. Goodbye. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Thank you. To all adopted people around the world, I dedicate the song Desiderata by Les Crane. And remember what peace. It's a powerful, life-changing poem for hard times, which inspires hope for all who hear it. My message to all adoptees is summed up in the chorus. You are a child of the universe. No less than the trees and stars, you have a right to be here. And whether or not it's clear to you, no doubt, the universe is unfolding as it should, and you have a unique and very important part to play in it. So stay strong, positive and focused, and you will thrive. I want to thank you all for joining us at Adoption Dialog. If you have any questions or comments, send it to us at adoptiondialog@gmail.com or drop it in the comments section of our social media platforms with the handle Adoption Dialog without the UE at the end of dialogue. Thank you again. Stay tuned for our next episode on social media. Bye for now and stay blessed.